these are my vents, my air conditioning vents that fit in where the open glove box area was, which is a huge find. And you can see I've got the paper out, scissors and the ruler and tape, and I'm making a box, an air box that runs just so that this will slip inside I'll make it out of Lexan just because I have a bunch of it lying around. Glue a little square box together, cut the plastic here, square opening, have a flange that sort of sticks in a fair ways and curls down so it grabs a lot of the air and shoves it out. I mean, I don't care that I'm going to reduce the amount of defrost that I get up to the glass. That's not critical. Obviously when these vents are closed, the air is going to find its way around, so I won't block it off entirely, but I'm putting priority towards air venting into the car rather than air going above. And I can always modify it if I think I've overdone it. By the way, just a couple things. I've finished the circuits, as I said, for the car, and even though I don't have the lithium battery hooked up, I'm using the lead acid battery. That's the circuit there that measures across the shunt, and then it sends a signal to the computer, so the computer can read. Let me just turn off this charging supply here that keeps the battery fresh. Let me just turn it off for a sec. Turn the computer on, and I'll show you the car sort of without too much stuff is only taking 2 amps. So this thing will fire up in a sec, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I've now got this system here. It's displaying 13 volts for the battery and 2.5 amps of current drain. If I flick that switch back on, it'll actually show that the battery's charging. So that's all great. I've got the solid state master ignition relay in there over here, and it's working beautifully with very low current. And then up in the corner here, you can see where it's displaying the voltage. There's a little circuit board in there, and that circuit board is the board that takes the computer's pulse width modulated output, converts it to a 12 to 15 volt signal for the alternator. So it spoofs the alternator into thinking it's at 14.5 volts when it's at 13.8. So basically it tells the alternator charge like crazy. When the voltage is below 13 volts, I actually tell the alternator it's at 11 volts or 12 volts, and then when I get to 13.8, I say it's at 14.5, and then anything above, I say it's getting towards 15 volts. So that's a way for the alternator to put a lot of current into the system and then back off and save the lithium battery from being overcharged. So that's it. I'm going to go cut this plastic up now and start gluing it, and I'll show you when that's all done. Well, so I was going to glue this in, like glue the Lexan to the plenum, but I realized that there's some stack-up tolerances I got to be really careful about. So this slides over. There's the vent slides inside this, and then it's tapered, so it sort of jams in nicely. And then this is cut carefully, so there's no gaps, nothing appreciable. And I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is, once it's in place, like once the dash is in and everything's aligned and tightened down, so all the tolerances are where they're going to be, then I can come in behind and I can put some duct tape to secure it a little bit more solidly just around this flange here, and then let this float. Some thermal expansion, contraction, movement, that kind of thing, rather than having it all rigid. I don't think it's going to rattle. So yeah, just to be careful, right? And then, so there's still lots of, looking from above, there's still lots of room around the edges here for air to get by for the windscreen, but there's a curved plenum piece here. I'm going to just trim, I still have to trim this plastic here, the Lexan away, and then it should be more than enough to get to substantial airflow through the vent system. So anyway, now that this is done, I can put the dash into the car permanently. Well, I drove it up and down the lane this morning. I was having to tear apart the old rotisserie thing and make room for my new EZjack stands, which are FedEx is delivering them in the next hour. They slip under the car and then boop, lifts the car up to 2.5 feet. So had to make room for that, and I've got some dollies that mount to the EZjack stand so I can roll the car sideways as well, which will be nice. I fucked up though. Jesus, did I fuck up. I did not check that the Wilwood callipers cleared the snowflakes, and they didn't. I spun the wheels back and forth a little bit and they were fine, and because of the transmission resistance I didn't spin them 100, like 360 degrees, so I drove the car up and down the lane and I've ripped up the calipers, and they rubbed against the back of the spokes and the wheel. Not massively, but unfortunately enough that I'm gonna have to refinish them. Fuck. Anyway, and there's a little bit of a notch, and I'm not sure what this is all about, but I may have to adjust the steering rack when I just got a temporary wheel in here, but when I turn the wheel, and there's a little bit of a sort of a, it's like there's a point where, and it may just be the tires grabbing, where there's a point, and that's probably what it is, where these are really sticky tires. By the way, they stick out, and I'm really surprised by this, but I guess these Deriza 2s, even though they're 185/60s, they're fatter side profile, and so they're right out pretty much to the edge of the wheel well there on the front. Not so on the back. The back is tucked in a long ways, and I don't know. I have to look at what's going on there. There's about 3/4 of an inch space on the inside from the edge of the tire to the strut tower. Lots of room on the inside. So this one, definitely spacer time. I'm going to put spacers on the inside with camber caster adjustment. So once I got the thing aligned, then I can take the brakes off and put the new hardware on and move the whole brake assembly out. Probably quite a bit, it looks like. Anyway, these are the next phases of the project. Tuning, tuning, tuning. Okay, so there you go. And so I modified the, it's all loose in here right now, it hasn't been bolted in, but I modified this whole dash display bezel thing that I cut apart so that my Holley digital dash fits right in. So if I align it correctly, I've got brackets that I've already made, stainless brackets, and so that fits in. And then there's plastic wings, adhesive wings that stick on each side to cover up the gaps. So I've got everything done now. It's all machined and cut and painted and glued and everything. So it's all ready to roll. I just need to bolt it together and align it exactly, and then my digital dash is ready to go. So there. One of the nice features about this is those rolling casters. You can pop them in with a single clevis pin, and then boom, you can move the thing around, which is great. I'm getting the narrower cross connects so that I don't need, I thought I might like having it wider so I can set tools on here and stuff, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go 6 inches narrower on each side, so it'll bring it in, that much further. And then I'm going to have some 3-inch rubber blocks so that I'll have a bigger gap between the rails here, the frame rails, and I can put some tools on there, and then this doesn't stick out as much. So here's what happened. So I mounted the wheels, the Snowflakes, and I was doing so many things yesterday, ripping the old rotisserie apart and I had to drive the car, and I put the wheels on, didn't check the clearance, so I sort of got an interference fit here with the caliper. So I'm either going to replace the calipers, you know, or paint them over. I mean, just paint them over. So here's the damage that was caused. So there's the interference there. I thought it cleared, but it didn't. It didn't check correctly. So got a Dremel out, and what I'm starting to do is profile the inside to provide clearance. And the reason is that I'm not super keen on spacers. I have a 3mm spacer that I can put on here and be done with it. Just not sure I want to use spacers on the wheels like that. I hate the idea of spacers, but I can always, 3mm isn't going to kill me. Anyway, I'm going to clearance this stuff a little bit anyway and get it to fit, and I may or may not use the spacer. So a couple steps forward, one step backwards, but anyway, it is what it is. So, okay, so here's how I've had to clearance it. Wherever there's that raw metal, that's where I've profiled it with the grinding wheel and sanded it afterwards, and then I'm going to prime it and paint it. So I'm going to put black epoxy down, and then I'm going to clear coat it. But basically there's a ridge near the top half of each spoke that sticks out, and I had to remove that ridge. And I'm still going to run a 3mm spacer. I'll glue the spacer to the inside of this, to each of the wheels. And then for the rear, I'm going to measure the camber and caster, and then measure the offset that I want, and then I'll remove the whole brake assembly and put the custom machine spacer in behind it that'll permanently fix the camber caster in the rear, which is going to be the way to do it. And just ordered my digital level and stuff so I can start getting an accurate alignment done. I also have to cut the coils. Looks like I have to cut probably 2 or 3 coils off the rear and 1 coil off the front springs, but I'm going to get the car level. I'm going to actually, this floor slopes a bit, so I'm going to make it level by building individual stands for each wheel. And I'm going to weigh the car, do a 4-corner weigh, find how much it weighs. I know roughly how much weight I have to put into it to get it to be, completely, finished, wet weight. And then when I've got that all done, then I can start doing, I'll just put in dummy weight. I'll put in a couple hundred pounds or whatever it takes of dummy weight in the right places, and then I'll do the alignment and get this thing squared away to the best of my ability at this stage. Well, yeah, so I got the black on, the epoxy on, as well as the clear coat this morning, and it's hardened up and it's fine. So I got my clearance so I can actually use these wheels, but I'm going to put 3mm spacers on anyway, just as a bit of a margin for safety. Yeah, so I've scaled it. And what I did is I've got a 670 pound scale, and I just leveled the car out and went around each 4-corner. And by the way, that's how these race springs work. They're called dead coils. So if I jump up and down on the bumper here, that bumper, yeah, I don't know if you can see it move without me. I'm moving, unfortunately, but it's only the top coils up above that move. So there's not a lot of play with these Mark 1s when you put racing springs in them. We'll see if that's too stiff. It's pretty stiff, but it feels very controlled with those race shocks as well. Anyway, so the total number is 1590. It's 1,125 pounds in the rear and 500 pounds in the front. So, sorry, 1,100 in the front and 500 in the rear. So obviously it's not finished yet. Got to put in the doors and the rest of the plexiglass and the sunroof and the rest of the interior, blah blah blah, and the rear hatch. So it'll be closer to 1850, maybe slightly higher when it's done. So it's within range. I was hoping to make it around 1,800 pounds, and it's with the heavier wheels. I've got lighter wheels that save a considerable amount of weight, can save about 35 pounds off that, the racing wheels with the Hoosier slicks. But in the stock configuration, street trim, being under 1900 pounds will be awesome with this engine. So anyway, it's good. That's, by the way, with all fluids and 8 gallons of gasoline in the tank, so 3/4 full. I'm going to take one coil out of the front, and that'll drop it down. It's 1.5 inch clearance to the fender. I want it to be just about 1 inch. So the rear, when I lean on it, put some weight on it, it'll drop. So I got to put a little bit more weight in the car, and then the weight will come down. But still, I'm in the upper coil perch, and I got to basically take the perch, move it down, and then cut a bunch of coils, and then I'll get the front and the rear to be the same height. So the EZcarlift will go up to 26 inches plus block height. So if I can put 3-inch rubber blocks in and get up to 29 inches total. So this is only 22 inches lift without rubber blocks, and you can see you can get in from the front or from the sides, back. Very minimal interference with the cross members. One running right over the rear axle and one behind the control arms. So really nice setup. I'm really happy to have it. And with the narrower cross beams coming next Monday or Tuesday, then I won't have them sticking out as far, but I'll have both. So if I want to go wider, I can with a wider vehicle, narrower, whatever. So anyway, nice setup. I did a rough alignment and waiting for my digital level. Looks like I got about 1.3 degrees of negative camber. Just had it maxed on the eccentric bolt on the strut. I'm not sure where I'm going to set it for the street, maybe around 1 degree, but and then it looks like I'm toe in around 1/8 or 3/16. I know it's supposed to be slightly toe out. I'll fiddle with that later, but I was just dialing in. And then this there's a bit of a click in the thing only when the wheel's down on the ground. And turns out what it is the steering column is shifting slightly. There's, other than a plastic collar that sits in here, there's nothing that actually keeps the steering column up against the lower bearing except the pressure from the drive shaft or the steering shaft and the U-joints pushing up. And if those U-joints want to move at all back towards the firewall, it'll actually let the steering wheel drop down. There's nothing that stops it other than this little shitty plastic collar. So I'm going to machine up a spacer here, or not a spacer, but a little circular clamp. I've got one of the clamps. Can't see in the dark here, but basically there's a clamp here. Actually, let me turn the light on, then you will be able to see. So yeah, there's a clamp here. It's an aftermarket clamp, and I'm going to make an identical one, or find an identical one to go here, and put some pressure against the bearing. Just hold the steering column precisely in position, and then and it should be really rock solid at that point with the Quaife close ratio manual box. So anyway, it's been a good couple days of wrenching, that's for sure, on the car, and I love my EZcarlift. Boy, I've taken it up and down. When I was doing the alignment, I was taking it up and down several times, and it sure makes it fast. So loving it. So here's the weight, the way it's worked out. Zoom in a bit. So I had to subtract off the old bumpers and the old lead acid battery and the old fuel, so I get to 1,542 pounds with the 70-30 weight distribution. Then I have to add back missing the right fender and the spoiler at the front, front seats, rear seats, seat belts, sunroof, doors, hatch, windows, wipers. I'm not including the air conditioning or audio system for now. You know, the little fender flares, the lights, carpeting, sound dampening, horns, brake booster pump, and strut tower braces front and rear, and then going to lighter wheels and tires, adding the dash, interior trim. It adds about another 250 some odd pounds, bringing it to about 1,800 pounds, just under 1,800 pounds. And then you have to add some fuel to go racing and a driver. So it adds about 200 pounds, so it brings you just under 2,000 as a sort of a wet loaded racing weight. But it's nice to see that I could probably get close to or just under 1,800 pounds, which was the original project goal for the car. So there we go. We'll see. I'll actually build it and weigh it.